Many things that happened to us long before our time seem mysterious and enigmatic to us today. We cannot explain many archaeological finds from ancient times, and yet we would like to know what we are dealing with. To arouse your curiosity and satisfy it at least a little bit, we have compiled the 10 most amazing archaeological finds you can imagine. Are you fascinated by mysterious things and archaeological discoveries? Then give us a thumbs up, subscribe to Hidden Worlds, and join us on our journey. The Headless Vikings. This mass grave was discovered and uncovered by archaeologists in Weymouth, England in 2009. Inside, they found 54 decapitated skeletons and 51 heads. After extensive scientific testing, it was finally determined that the dead were Scandinavian Vikings. Since mass graves in general, and especially of this size, are extremely unusual and were rare, especially in the period of origin, this find attracted a corresponding amount of attention. The dead appeared to have lived between the 5th and 10th centuries and were between 15 and 30 years old. This evidence suggests that they belonged to the forces of the Vikings invading England, who engaged in bloody combat with Anglo-Saxons living there. It's strange, however, that the skeletons show no battle wounds apart from decapitation and appear to have been entirely naked at the time of their deaths. However, they seem to have tried to prevent their decapitation with their bare hands. The grave itself looks very chaotic, as if the burial of the Vikings at this site had not been planned. Moreover, the 3 missing heads seem to have belonged to high-ranking members who were probably impaled on sticks and taken away as a warning. There are several theories as to why these men were killed, but none of them has been confirmed so far. The bloody truth about vampires. Nowadays, everyone has a clear idea of what makes a vampire, but for a very long time this was not the case. Those who are not familiar with the decomposition process of a corpse can easily be under a misapprehension. So the fear of vampires in past centuries stemmed from the fact that the skin would dry up, making the teeth and fingernails look as if they had grown a lot. In addition, when the viscera decompose, a dark liquid comes out of the mouth and nose that looks very much like blood. Someone seeing the dead person like this could therefore get the impression that he had turned into a vampire and was drinking blood. Furthermore, vampires were said to be the cause of terrible plagues and diseases. Fighting them thus gave people the feeling that they could control the rampant disease. To prevent a relative from rising again after death, many corpses were nailed to their coffins with wooden stakes through their hearts, or their mouths were filled with bricks and rope. These procedures gave today's archaeologists some strange and gruesome finds. The Book of the Dead. The Book of the Dead is a collection of various texts with spells and help for the dead. It was written by Egyptian priests and was intended to help the deceased on their journey through the underworld, called Duat. It describes the descent of the soul into the realm of the dead through the weighing of his heart, where his good and his evil deeds are considered to the judgment of whether he will receive punishment or be allowed to spend his time in the afterlife with joy as a good soul. Usually, a copy of it was placed in the grave of each dead person. Some texts from it also adorn the walls of many tombs and sarcophagi. It can be dated approximately from 1550 to about 50 BC. The Baby Mass Grave. The archaeologist Ross Voss came across this creepy find while roaming the catacombs of Ashkelon, Israel. At first, he thought the numerous small bones he found were chicken bones. However, further tests and examinations revealed that they were the remains of well over 100 babies. These were dated to the Roman era. None of the children was more than a week old when they died, and moreover, they were all completely healthy. On this basis, scientists suspect that these are unwanted babies who were abandoned according to Roman tradition. This served as birth control or was practiced by women who could not take care of their child. Furthermore, at that time, this procedure was not considered a crime, as the Romans believed in saving the children who were supposed to survive according to divine will. In addition, they were not yet considered full human beings. The Alien Skulls. In Sonora, Mexico, a small cemetery was accidentally stumbled upon that contained 25 skulls, 13 of them deformed in such a way that they have the appearance of aliens. Jewelry and other objects suggest that the skulls found were ritually deformed by applying pressure to the bone using bandages and pieces of wood. This was common in many cultures, usually either for religious purposes or to make different social groups distinguishable. Unfortunately, we can only speculate about the reason in this case. The mass grave of the giant wombats. This other mass grave on our list was discovered in Australia. It contained several specimens of the so-called Diptrodon optatum, a giant wombat-like animal. It belonged to the megafauna, the name given to the group of prehistoric, very large animals. For a long time, it also lived in peaceful coexistence with the Aborigines before becoming extinct about 25,000 years ago. How exactly the animals ended up in the aforementioned mass grave and what they died of has not yet been clarified. The RONGORONGO tablets. RONGORONGO is a glyphic script that does not resemble anything we humans know today. These tablets were found on the Easter Islands as early as the 19th century, but to this day they cannot be deciphered. However, the scientists working on the tablets have at least been able to extract some kind of calendar and genealogical information from the glyphs, although their meaning is still unclear. There are about 24 tablets made from various pieces of wood, including driftwood. Some of them have been badly damaged over time by fire or weather conditions. Research currently assumes that only a very small group of people understood these characters. Comparable material has also not yet been discovered. The Tomb of the Red Queen. The tomb referred to in this section was found in 1994 in a Maya temple near Palenque in Mexico. Two archaeologists had the task of stabilizing the staircase of the temple pyramid and stumbled upon it. It is currently assumed that a woman named Ixtacbuajor was laid to rest in this tomb. The estimated date of origin is between 600 and 700 AD. Judging by the location, the grave goods, and the sarcophagi, the woman was most likely a noblewoman of Mayan society. The tomb received its iconic name because of the red vermilion powder that covered everything when the chamber was first opened. The wooden idol from the SHIGIR MOOR. The wooden idol mentioned is an ornate pole discovered in the SHIGIR MOOR north of Yekaterinburg in Russia. It was stumbled upon by chance, as so often happens, when a peat cutting was being carried out in January 1890. The idol surfaced at a depth of 4 meters. A German-Russian research team is extensively studying the piece, which dates to around 9500 BC, and suspects that it's a representation of an anthropomorphic snake deity. Originally, the idol had a size of about 5 meters. However, due to age and weather conditions, this decreased considerably to a still stately 3.8 meters. It's therefore assumed that it was erected for a long time in the open air, where it was used for ceremonies and ritual acts. It was made of larch wood and shows not only Mesolithic wood carvings, but also a form of monumental art that was completely unknown in Western Europe. The wooden idol from the SHIGIR MOOR is so important for the scientific world because it proves that there were human settlements in this area 2,400 years earlier than originally assumed. Horses and chariots. Almost everyone is familiar with the world-famous terracotta warriors, but hardly anyone knows about the sensational discovery of this burial site. Near a remote village, the tomb of a ruler of the Zhou dynasty was discovered, which contained 48 chariots and over 100 horses as grave goods. What's more, the whole thing is considerably older than the terracotta army by about 600 years. The tomb on the banks of the Yellow River is about 3,000 years old. With its incredible dimensions, this site is the largest of its kind to date. Since the ruler buried there was known for his great campaigns, it's assumed that the horse and chariots were his real cavalry. Moreover, it's reasonable to conclude that the animals were merely stunned and then brought to the tomb alive, as some skeletons were found with twisted limbs and tied legs. Since there have been countless archaeological sensational finds since research has been given higher budgets for them, from the royal tombs in Egypt to the exploration of the catacombs of many large cities, to diving operations in sunken buildings and ships, some of the most remarkable and, above all, mysterious ones are probably listed here. They show us that we are far from knowing everything about our human history and spur us on to ever better achievements and even more sophisticated research. Do you have your own explanations or theories about the findings presented? Or have you perhaps already had experiences in this field that you would like to share with us all? Feel free to write it in the comments and discuss. Science is the ultimate authority when in doubt. We trust in it and we believe in it. But what happens when science has no explanation? Science can't make sense of the following discoveries and is in the dark, but see for yourself. Building from mammoth bones. A stunning example of Ice Age architecture has been unearthed in Russia's forest steppe, a huge circular structure built from the bones of at least 60 woolly mammoths. Why our ancestors would build this structure 40 feet in diameter is now being studied in depth by scientists, and the structure raises questions. The structure seems to have been significant to its builders in any case, as it took them a lot of time and effort to erect it. The hut appeared to have been inhabited, as cooking fire residues and food remains were found within the walls. In general, mammoth bone structures are known to archaeologists. Similar structures have been found throughout Eastern Europe on a much smaller scale of a few meters in diameter. These sites, including others found in Kostenki in the 1950s and 60s, date back to as far as 22,000 years. However, the size of this structure makes it exceptional, scientists say. This is evidence that it was also considered a landmark, a meeting place, or a place of ceremonial importance. The origin of ball sports. Thousands of years ago, various teams would meet on a stone court wearing belts and loincloths and use their hips to propel a hard rubber ball towards the goals at either end of the court. The ball game, reenacting a creation story recorded in the Maya religious text Popol Vuh, was an important part of political, religious, and social life for the Maya and Aztecs, as well as the Olmecs before them. But archaeologists do not yet know much about where exactly people first played the game, or how it became a cultural phenomenon that spread across what is now Guatemala, Belize, Mexico, Honduras, and El Salvador. The pitch, a stony narrow passageway about 50 meters long, bordered by stone walls and mounds of earth, occupied a place of honor in the heart of the ancient city. But sometime between 1174 and 1102 BC, the inhabitants dismantled part of it, thus ending the game ritual. It turned out, however, that underneath the 12th century BC pitch was another, even older playing field. This was the time when the first ball games were invented, and games were being played in front of an audience on a playing field. Largest ancient ivory factory of antiquity discovered in Pakistan. Huge quantities of discarded ivory fragments have been unearthed in the ancient port city of Banbahor, making it the largest ivory production facility in the ancient world. Discarded pieces of tusks indicate massive industrial-style processing of ivory. Archaeologists re-excavating the 2,100-year-old port city of Banbahor in Pakistan's Sindh province have discovered over 40 kilograms of discarded ivory shards dating back to around 800 AD, which they believe is evidence of the largest ivory carving in the Islamic era. Incidentally, the find is limited only to what the early ivory craftsmen had thrown away. Banbahor was founded about 65 kilometers or 40 miles east of Karachi, at the mouth of the Indus River in the 1st century BC during the Scythian-Parthian period. Once an important port and trading hub in ancient times with trade links around the Indian Ocean and the Far East, it was defended by a large fortified citadel of about 14,000 square meters. Ivory was shipped from there. Russian treasure chest contains remains of 2,000-year-old nomadic king. A farmer digging a pit on his land came across a sunken ancient burial mound of a nomadic king who lived 2,000 years ago. The laughing man also had an artificially deformed, egg-shaped skull. Besides the chief's skeleton, stunning gold and silver jewelry, weapons, valuables, and artistic household items were found. After the burial site was examined in detail, scientists came to the conclusion that it was a king's mound, one of the places where ancient nomads buried their nobility. The king's mound belongs to the Sarmatian people. Their area of distribution, at its greatest extent in the 1st century AD, stretched from the Caspian Sea across Eurasia to present-day Poland. The burial is believed to have been given to a leader of a nomadic Sarmatian tribe that dominated this part of Russia until the 5th century AD, and to other important figures of the ancient world, including a laughing young man with an artificially deformed egg-shaped skull and excellent teeth, whose mummy survived for 2 millennia. Dinosaur with heart-shaped coccyx bones. Recent findings have identified a new species of dinosaur that provides scientists with a lot of information about the prehistoric animal's habits. It's Minyamawantuka moyawamkia, a dinosaur that had a tail with a set of bones in the shape of a heart. With skin, however, the heart shape was largely hidden. The name comes from Swahili. Minyamawamtuka means animal of the Matuka. Matuka is the name of the riverbed where the dinosaur was discovered. The second word, moyawamkia, means something like heart is tail. This dinosaur matches other similar titanosaur sauropods discovered previously, but at the same time represents a new link between the species. Although titanosaurs became one of the most successful dinosaur groups before the infamous mass extinction that ended the age of dinosaurs, their early evolutionary history remains obscure, and Minyamawamtuka helps to tell these beginnings. Libro de los Epitomes. Hernando Colón, or Ferdinand Columbus, was born in 1488 to the explorer Christopher Columbus and his mistress Beatriz Enriquez de Arana. Although Colón was an illegitimate child, he was acknowledged by his father. Like father, like son, Colón took on a larger-than-life project. While Columbus explored the oceans and set out in search of the New World, his son eagerly tried to read every book he could get his hands on. In fact, he wanted to create a universal library containing all the books in all languages and on all subjects to be found both within and outside Christianity. For his zealous efforts, Colón even hired a group of scholars to review the books in his possession and write a summary on the fly for a groundbreaking 16-volume manuscript cross-referenced to other items in the library collection. The manuscript was called Libro de los Epitomes, the Book of Epitomes, and has been compared to a medieval search engine because of its extensive cross-referencing. The knowledge about the books and other early printed material that Colón had collected was meticulously summarized and classified. For centuries, the Book of Epitomes was considered lost until it was recently identified as part of the Arnamagnæan collection at the University of Copenhagen. The summaries fill over 2,000 pages, and much of it relates to the books that have been completely lost to history. For shorter volumes, the scribes added 1 page. For books like those of the great Greek philosophers, more extensive summaries were added, taking up dozens of pages. Unopened sarcophagus. In the Egyptian city of Alexandria, a sealed sarcophagus was found 16 feet underground. It's still not known who or what is inside the nondescript black granite coffin, but it's clear that it has not been opened since it was closed more than 2,000 years ago. Ayman Ashmawi, head of the State Sector for Ancient Egyptian Antiquities, reports a layer of mortar between the lid and the body of the sarcophagus, suggesting that it has never been opened. Considering that many ancient tombs in Egypt have been looted over the years, an untouched sarcophagus is quite a rare find. The sarcophagus was discovered when a site in the Sidi Gaba district of the Ptolemaic dynasty was inspected before construction of a building began. In addition, an alabaster statue with a man's head was found in the same tomb. 2,500-year-old horse remains in Bulgaria. Archaeologists have uncovered the remains of a Thracian carriage and 2 horses that appear to have been buried upright. The carriage and horse skeletons are 2,500 years old and were discovered in the village of Seveshtari in northeastern Bulgaria. The 2-wheeled carriage and the carcasses of the horses were found together with some ornaments in a Thracian grave. The find came as a complete surprise to scientists, as treasure hunters have looted many of the ancient burial mounds found in the region to find gold, even though UNESCO has banned this activity. Fish sauce in antiquity. The production and trade of fish sauce was a significant and widespread industry in ancient times, stretching from Britain to the Black Sea. Roman fish sauce, known as garum, was one of the most popular and commonly used ingredients in the Roman pantry. Some historians have even argued that fish sauce, now common throughout Southeast Asia, was introduced to the continental sub-region via the Silk Road. The Carthaginians were early producers and traders of fish sauce, which they made along the coast of Lake Tunisia. A 5th century BC Punic shipwreck found off the coast of Ibiza may have carried a cargo of fish sauce stored in amphorae made in Gades and Tingis. Ancient Maya artifacts. Since late 2011, a story has been circulating on various websites about a box of carved stones and clay tablets, allegedly discovered in an ancient Mayan temple. On these artifacts are images of classical saucer-shaped flying bodies and large-eyed aliens. According to the latest reports, these artifacts were discovered decades ago, when archaeological teams removed debris characteristically preserved by Mayan temple builders as they rebuilt the structures over time. The collection of statues, masks and plaques found in the interiors of one particular temple in Mexico was considered evidence of Mayan contact with extraterrestrials and kept under lock and key. What do you think about these finds? Is too much being read into it, or could the truth be even more shocking? Feel free to leave us a comment. Africa, the black continent that various colonial powers, including France, Portugal and Germany, tried to subjugate. They failed miserably in this endeavor because the country and its people have preserved their own culture and still inspire many tourists with their beauty. Even though the country has been sadly exploited in many ways, in terms of mineral resources and nature, there are still inexplicable things to discover in Africa, as the examples in this video will show. Are you fascinated by mysterious things and archaeological discoveries? Then give us a thumbs up, subscribe to Hidden Worlds, and join us on our journey. Sky Stone. The stone, known as the Sky Stone, was discovered around 1990 by geologist and archaeologist Angelo Pittoni in Sierra Leone, West Africa. It's a strange blue stone whose origin was initially unknown. Pittoni sent the stone to several laboratories around the world for examination. All experts agreed that the blue stone did not resemble any type of rock known in nature, so it must have been artificially created. The Italian geologist believed that it was a very unusual find, a crystal found in the diamond fields of Sierra Leone that resembles pure turquoise. Analysis carried out on this stone of heaven revealed that the stone was not made of any type of stone known on Earth. It was found to be 77% oxygen, along with traces of carbon, silicon, calcium, and sodium. This composition makes the Sky Stone resemble a type of concrete or lump, and it appears to have been artificially colored. Another mystery associated with the Sky Stone is that it was found exclusively in soil layers dating to at least 12,000 BC. It cannot be ruled out that this type of stone was produced by an ancient advanced civilization. Ruins of Gedi. The ruins of Gedi are one of Kenya's great mysteries. Situated in an idyllic spot on the Indian Ocean and deep in a lush forest, it was thought to have been built in the early 13th century, although most scholars lack the vital evidence to support this. To this day, numerous coral brick houses, a palace and an impressive mosque can still be seen there. But it's not only the good condition of the ruins that amazes visitors, but also the progressive character of the settlement. Gedi was in many ways a very modern town with roads, running water and flush toilets. Correcting the assumption that pre-colonial Africa was far behind the rest of the world, Gedi was among the cosmopolitan cities of the past. Archaeologists have found Ming vases from China, Venetian glass, and other artifacts from around the world, among other things. The potpourri of history is clear evidence that the Muslim inhabitants of the Kenyan coastal city traded extensively with cultures outside their own, building an incredible empire that has now been swallowed up in the tropical forests along the coast. The surrounding area has since been declared a national park. Remote Island. The island of Anjouan, off the east coast of Africa, is mostly dark volcanic rock. But researchers have now found stone formations on the island that should not actually appear there. They are quartzite, a metamorphic rock that forms from sandstone as it would occur in a riverbed or delta, and not as it would on a volcanic island. The stones were found near a mountain village called Tsembeho, which lies between heavily forested volcanic slopes. Researchers discovered during investigations that a nearby ridge called Habakari Nagani is even almost half quartzite. Somehow, this rock got into the ocean basin between Africa and Madagascar, which is not supposed to contain any quartzite at all. New species of prehistoric man in South African cave. Scientists have announced the discovery of 15 partial skeletons belonging to what is believed to be a previously unknown species of prehistoric man. The remains were recovered from Rising Star Cave in South Africa by a team of female scientists and climbers who had to descend through a narrow, vertical shaft, only 8 inches wide at the top, to reach the burial chamber below. In total, more than 1,500 bone fragments were discovered, the largest single paleoanthropological find of its kind in Africa. Scientists believe that the remains may be from the earliest members of the genus Homo, to which modern humans belong. The newly discovered Homo naledi will certainly shed more light on the evolution of mankind. The 15 partial but well-preserved skeletons include both males and females, as well as old and young individuals. Stone circles of Senegambia. The stone circles of Senegambia are located in a zone about 100 kilometers wide and 350 kilometers long north of the Gambia River and comprise of 1,053 stone circles with a total of 28,931 monoliths. 4 representative groups of these circles have been selected for inscription on the World Heritage List at 2 sites in the Gambia and 2 in Senegal. The 4 sites include 93 stone circles and numerous tumuli and burial mounds. Their age and origin remain a mystery, but a limited amount of recent excavation work suggests that they were built between the 3rd century BC and the 16th century AD. They thus predate the current inhabitants of the area, the Manding people, who settled there later. Earliest evidence of stone tool making. Our ancestors were familiar with making stone tools even earlier than we thought, about 700,000 years earlier. That is the finding of the West Turkana Archaeological Project. Archaeologists have found the earliest stone artifacts at a site called Lomekwi 3 on the western shore of Lake Turkana in northern Kenya, dating back 3.3 million years. These tools shed more light on a previously unknown period of hominin behavior and can tell us a lot about the cognitive development of our ancestors that we cannot understand from fossils alone, scientists say. The find also disproves the long-held assumption that Homo habilis was the first tool maker. In ancient Egypt, life wasn't easy for elite pets. For ancient Egyptians, owning a menagerie of exotic animals meant power and wealth, but the remains of baboons, hippos, and other elite pets buried in a cemetery near the Nile more than 5,000 years ago reveal the darker side of the status symbols of the time. Baboon skeletons found at one grave bear dozens of broken hand and foot bones, suggesting punishing beatings. At least 2 baboons have classic parry fractures, broken arms that typically occur when they try to protect their heads from a blow. A hippo calf broke its leg trying to free itself from a shackle, and an antelope and a wild cow also have injuries, likely related to being shackled. The zookeepers of the time definitely had problems with the proper girth with the animals, because the practical means of keeping animals in captivity were not as well resolved as they are today. The animals were found in the ancient cemetery of Hierakonpolis, a city that flourished long before Egypt became a unified kingdom ruled by pharaohs. Excavations have uncovered 2 elephants, a leopard, 2 crocodiles, and the remains of 9 other exotic species buried near the tombs of powerful citizens. Nowhere else in Egypt have archaeologists found such a variety of ancient zoo animals that were likely sacrificed after the death of their owners. Researchers get to the bottom of fairy circles. Fairy circles are round gaps in the grassland that are very evenly distributed across the landscape and only occur along the Namib Desert in southern Africa and in parts of Australia. Various theories circulate about the actual origin of these unusual patterns, ranging from poisonous euphorbia plants or rising gases to ants, termites, or the struggle of the local vegetation for scarce water resources. Scientists from the University of Göttingen, Australia, and Israel have now got to the bottom of their course with soil tests and drones. The results suggest that the fairy circles in Australia were caused by soil weathering due to heavy rainfall, extreme heat, and evaporation. The extensive data collected by the researchers argued against a connection with subterranean termite structures. So far, fairy circles are only known from southwest Africa around the Namib Desert and from Western Australia near the mining town of Newman. The origin of the Namibian circles has been a mystery since the early 1970s, while the Australian fairy circles were only discovered in 2014. Despite a distance of around 10,000 kilometers, both occurrences show an identical spatial pattern, suggesting that there must be a connection. Bakoni Ruins. Makarodorp is a small, unassuming town on the edge of a bluff, only 38 kilometers from the African fly fishing mecca of Dahlstrom, with its many accommodation and dining options. The enigmatic stone walls of the Bakoni ruins there have puzzled historians for some time and have been the subject of much controversy and heated debate over the years. The ruins consist of thousands of stone walls scattered across the hills surrounding the city. Described by guidebooks as the lost city of South Africa, the walls are believed to be arranged in a complex of sorts and linked to the long-lost Bakoni tribe. Their origin dates back 200,000 years, according to researchers. Church of St. George in Lalibela. The Church of St. George is one of 11 rock-hewn monolithic churches in Lalibela, a town in the Amhara region of Ethiopia. Originally called Roha, the historical and religious site of Lalibela was named after King Gebra Maskal Lalibela of the Zagwe dynasty, who commissioned its construction. St. George's Church was hewn downwards from a type of volcanic tuff rock. It dates to the late 12th or early 13th century AD and was built during the reign of King Gebra Maskal Lalibela of the late Zagwe dynasty. According to Ethiopian cultural history, Bete Gorgis was built after King Lalibela had a vision in which he was commissioned to build the church. St. George and God himself are said to have given him the commission. Lalibela is still a pilgrimage site for members of the Ethiopian Orthodox Tawahedo Church. Moreover, the church itself is part of the UNESCO World Heritage Site. What do you think about these mysterious places? Feel free to leave us a comment.